feel like I'm breaking into kind of a hush.
Yeah.
It's very dream poppy. That was. I've never heard you in this format. I've heard you in the band format,
Right.
and for people who don't know, it is a 5-piece, and there's a bass guitar and a drum banging away too.
Yeah.
Are you a much louder band in a full concert then, or are these elements still there?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely are much louder. We try to maintain, dynamics though, because I think at this point it's a disservice to the songs if it's just a wham bam sort of approach.
Right.
But I mean, this is how everything starts, acoustic guitar and sort of soft vocals.
It's really nice, the atmosphere, the textures, we really shine through. And I wanted to ask you about you as a lyricist too. You were kind of talking about all your songs being about the regret end of things. You're sort of a minimalist from what I can tell. I mean, you kind of paint a fairly short picture and then get out. Can you tell me a bit about how they come, what you do?
Like I said, if anything, the seed of the song is sort of like a chorus phrase that I come up with, and then I try to keep that pretty simple and direct and accessible, and then I try to use the verses as a place where I can maybe expand a bit on an idea, be a little more vague, or a little more poetic in that sense. But I definitely have always tried to be articulate. It's something that I had a writing teacher in high school. I thought, I've always been a lover of music, and I knew I was a singer and that I wanted to do something like this, but I didn't necessarily think that was going to happen because I had a lot of self-confidence issues and didn't really know how to materialize, the things that I wanted. So I thought I was going to go into writing, so I did a lot of that. And I had a teacher once tell me, you're a promising writer, but it's too much, it's too superfluous, that you need to be able to, say what you want to say and get out and have that have been impactful. And she gave me a writing book called Writing Down the Bones, which has probably been something that I've, kept in the back of my mind, if not the front, since then. And I think that the pop song is sort of the perfect medium to exercise that approach. You've got 3 minutes and you need to say something and have it stick.
I did
get
that
lost.
When I was in journalism class. I had that exercise sort of to write a story, and then the editor would say, okay, now cut it in half.
Yeah.
Now cut that in half. And it would end up really with the one sentence lead, and you'd go, oh my God, really, this is it? But it was a good exercise.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. So are you a good editor of yourself, or do other people come in to help in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, I self-edit for the most part. I guess I have I'm able to sort of suspend the fact that it's mine. If I take some time away, I can come back to a song and be like, wow, I don't remember writing that or where that came from at all. So there's kind of a lucky, objective voice that I can take advantage of.
You're able to kill the widows, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. Now, you work with and continue to work with Richard Gottehrer, correct? Who, for people who don't know, he was a brill-building pop writer back in the 60s and produced Blondie, Richard Hell, and the Go-Go's, among many, many others. How did you connect with him, and what does he bring to your work?
I think that if I recall, I signed with Sub Pop off of, basically these very, very rough demos that I had been self-recording and had been released on pretty small labels. And somehow this gem of a person named Dean Hudson found me on MySpace and, essentially signed me to Sub Pop without a band, without a record, which was a huge opportunity, obviously. And he and I were trying to figure out, okay, so for this first proper release, should I, scrap all the songs that I've been recording? Should we go into a studio, and do a much higher fidelity version of what I've been doing? And we just decided that wasn't really appropriate. I had gotten to where I was because of, you know, there was something in these early recordings that people found charming or you know, whatever. And so I wasn't ready to completely abandon ship. But we did think that it would be appropriate to bring in somebody to mix them, you know, professionally and maybe offer some post-production. And we, you know, just toyed with the idea, like, what if we could get somebody, you know, big, like somebody legendary, you know? And someone at Sub Pop knew Seymour Stein, who had a label with Richard back in the day. And so via him, I think we got an email address, and it was basically a cold call. It was like, hey, you know, here's this singer, check out this MySpace page.
MySpace has never been talked about as much as today.
Well, I mean, it's wild to me to think, you know, that we're basically sitting here because somebody clicked on a MySpace page. And he, I mean, I think you can look back and see the projects he's worked on and understand probably what he saw in Dum Dum Girls that, you know, that he understood and was familiar and could be excited about. But I remember he told me the cover of Baby Don't Go was sort of the deal maker for him, which is why he insisted it was on the first record.
Do you think he has a particular knack or ability to work with women? Because he has produced a lot of female acts.
I don't know. I mean, that'd be a question for him.
Yeah, I guess.
He's worked with, you know, a lot of men as well. But yeah, I mean, he's kind of taken on. He's like my New York dad. He's incredibly inspiring. He's so enthusiastic. I mean, you remember recording with him. He like dances and
he's a huge cheerleader in the studio.
It's great, and he's
light.
really smart and sharp, and he gets these ideas that, you know, I think would only happen if he was around. So he's vital in that sense.
So it's a real catalyst and
he's a good person to have on your team for sure.
That's good. I want to ask you too about, we've talked a bit about songwriting and then performing, the different charges, the different kicks you get from doing both. I want to talk a bit about that here.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the writing and the recording for me is much more cerebral. It's, yeah, like I said, it's something that feels very, very personal to me. And historically, I'm a pretty introverted wallflower type. But, you know, kind of that classic underneath it all, there's like somebody that really wants to go for it, which is why I think I enjoy performing live so much. And even though, you know, Dum Dum Girls are kind of known for being a bit heavy on the mood and you know, more stoic than Iggy Pop, you know, stylings. Just a bit. There's still, I think, the same sort of intensity, you know, that we feel on stage. And recently on the tour we're on now, I've quit playing guitar for most of the set, so I'm, you know, getting to exercise that.
And why is that?
More.
Does it free you? I mean, why does it free you up as a frontwoman?
It just felt, you know, time to see what that was like. Yeah.
And you've got enough guitars, right?
That was also a pretty defining factor.
Jules, how do you and Andrew work together as the guitar tandem team?
Well, we kind of know what parts we're like strongest at. I usually just stick to the simple lead type things, and then strumming, and he adds all this like texture and ethereal sounds and like really flushes out the song, just like the album is. I think he's those little elements that the two of us probably couldn't have done without a third person.
Yeah, that was like the big reason. You know,
there are a lot of guitar tracks on the album, so it's like to do it two-way, two people would be, well, I need an extra arm or something.
Yeah, how many tracks are on songs? The guitar tracks, say, would you? Seems like layers and layers and layers.
Yeah, I mean, on Too True, there's probably 3 to 6 on every song. So I mean, and some of it's just doubled, you know. But again, it's for the sound, and so it really, you know, because for me, I wanted the songs to sound like how they sound in my head. It was important that we were able to, you know, recreate that to some degree live as well.
Now with Too True, it came out first of the year, I think, right?
Yeah, end of January.
But there was a couple of, 2 years between albums or so. And you had some vocal trouble, right? Some throat
Yeah.
trouble. And I guess maybe some writing trouble as well. I know you that you wrote some liners or some in the press kit. You wrote something very nice about that. Can you tell people a little bit about that period?
It was definitely a strange situation. We had been on tour for the last EP, End of Days, and I had been, you know, plugging along, but noticing I was starting to have some pretty significant vocal issues. And having been a singer my entire life, I had a really strong voice. Never had to think about it, didn't have to put a ton of effort into, you know, I just showed up and it showed up as well, and it's kind of stopped showing up. And I found myself kind of amending my technique, and I ended up just developing some bad vocal technique habits that in turn, you know, this is like a very common thing that happens when you're like a touring band. But yeah, I started to get vocal nodes and basically had to take time off to let that heal. And then I had to start reevaluating how I was singing. And, you know, I met with a vocal coach every week for like, I don't know, 9 months trying to figure out what exactly, you know, what corner I had painted myself into and how to get out of it.
Well, having come out the other side, how do you feel?
I feel a lot better, but I definitely am much more paranoid now. You know, I really took it for granted that I had this instrument that, you know, was as foolproof as sitting down and having a guitar. I mean, a guitar can break, but if your voice breaks, there's not like a backup, you know, that your tech can hand you.
You look at people like Tony Bennett in their 80s going, my God, he sounds wonderful.
I know.
You know, how does that happen?
I need to read his autobiography if there is one. I need his secrets.
See what the secrets to singing are. I know, that's good. Well, why don't we conclude with you? You've got one more song to go.
Yeah.
Which is what? What is it?
It's called Been Alone So Long.
Been Alone. A happy song?
Yeah.
It's, I mean,
obviously.
It sounds like a happy song.
Yeah.
Well, take us out on this, and thank you, Dum Dum
you.
Girls, for
Yeah.
being here,
Thanks.
and thank you for watching Boston Rock Talk.